At the foot of the cross stands the Virgin Mary in an attitude of dignified grief. On either side stand two groups of saints. They underline the purpose of the painting as an aid to meditation on the mystical suffering of Christ. The group on the left includes St. John the Baptist, patron saint of Florence, and next to him St. Mark the Evangelist, titular saint of the Priory. On the left are the Medici patron saints, Cosmas, Damien and Lorenzo. The right-hand group shows founders of the religious orders. These include St. Dominic, who is nearest the cross. He appears again holding a symbolic tree at the centre of the lower frieze. Entwined in the tree are portraits of leading members of the Dominican order, including a number of popes, cardinals and bishops. The saints and religious leaders in this painting emphasize the pride that the Dominicans took in the history of their community and the Church. Next to the chapter house there's a vestibule leading to a second cloister and the upper story of the building. Entryways like this were usually cross-vaulted, but an unusual feature of this vestibule is its barrel vault. The smooth plaster surface is interrupted only by a thin cornice of brick, similar to the cornice in the cloister. This gives a calculated effect of carefully measured space and volume. The vestibule leads to a stairway, and at the bottom of the stairs is another refectory, smaller than the first. Again it's covered with vaulting which supports the rooms above. The Last Supper had long been considered a suitable embellishment for monastic refectories, illustrating the taking of nourishment in both mundane and spiritual forms. Some 15 Last Suppers were painted in Florentine refectories between the early 14th and late 15th centuries. This is a fairly late example by Domenico Ghirlandaio. Above Christ and his disciples, Ghirlandaio has painted a vaulted ceiling, which to some extent gives an illusion of looking out into a continuation of the real refectory, with a view into a garden beyond, populated by trees and birds. But the illusion isn't entirely consistent. Someone standing in the refectory looks up at the painting and should therefore not be able to see the top of the table. But Ghirlandaio has taken a much higher theoretical viewpoint so that we can see the top of the table and the hands of the disciples on it. We can see the linen tablecloth and the details of the meal spread upon it, the wine, glasses, fruit and bread. So the high viewpoint helps to make the narrative clear, but at the same time creates an environment for the holy figures distinct from that of the spectator. As in the vestibule, Michelozzo uses a barrel vault to cover the stairway, with groin vaults at the landings. As the staircase turns right, the Medici Palais are again prominent, decorating a pair of double windows. These light both the landing and the staircase. As the visitor climbs the last few stairs, a fresco in the corridor above is gradually revealed. It shows the Annunciation, a scene traditionally set on the entry wall of Italian churches because of its message of salutation and redemption. This version by Fra Angelico is set in a fenced garden of flowers, a metaphor for the miraculous birth. The angel Gabriel and the Virgin Mary are in an open-sided loggia. The painted architecture, the columns, vaults and doorway frame and emphasize the two figures. There are striking similarities with the architecture of San Marco itself. In the foreground there are Corinthian columns, but the Ionic columns beyond and the vaulting appear to derive from Michelozzo's cloister below. This resemblance to their own priory would have given the painting a much greater impact for the friars. This Annunciation is in one of the corridors leading to the friars' cells. In 1419 a papal concession had allowed single cells, and San Marco was one of the earliest buildings to put this into practice. There is a simple vernacular feel to this part of the building, and this simplicity is carried through to the stone doorways of the cells. Each cell contains a fresco and a small window with a wooden shutter.